This past weekend, we saw Penn State once again lose another big game, and it seems like every year, Penn State's quarterbacks never play well in the biggest moments. Whether it was Christian Hackenberg, Sean Clifford, or more recently Drew Allar, it just seems that Penn State never has that quarterback who makes those big plays and ultimately brings home those big wins. Drew Allar has gotten a ton of scrutiny, and some are wondering if their backup quarterback could maybe give them a better chance to win games. Obviously, people are being a little bit ridiculous with that, but in today's video, I thought it'd be cool to spotlight who their backup quarterback is. Over the last few seasons, it was Beau Pribula, who is now doing well at Mizzou, but now it's a player by the name of Ethan Grunkemeyer. Him and Drew Allar actually came from the same area of Ohio, worked with the same quarterback trainer, and both put up ridiculous numbers in high school. Grunkemeyer had one of the craziest recruiting stories in the 2024 class, and in today's video, we're going to do a spotlight on Penn State's backup quarterback, go through who he is, and how good he could be for them in the future. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about Ethan Grunkemeyer. So in order to understand how Ethan got to this point, we first need to go back in time. Plenty of people in State College, Pennsylvania know exactly who Drew Allar is, but many don't know that Ethan Grunkemeyer is probably in line to take over as a starter next year, and this was always supposed to sort of happen. Both of his parents ended up playing basketball, and his mother played at Ohio State, so athletics ran in his family, but he decided on playing football instead of basketball. He was actually raised an Ohio State football fan, and cool enough, was actually at Penn State's 2016 whiteout game as a Buckeyes fan. He says the connection didn't affect him, and he would eventually become less of an Ohio State fan and more of a college football fan as a whole, and this happened as he entered high school and as he was trying to get recruited. Like Allar, Grunkemeyer grew up close to Columbus, Ohio, as Allar went to Medina and Ethan went to Olentangy High School. Those two high schools would play a lot. Eventually, Ethan would take over as a starter during his sophomore season. He started to blow up as he threw for 2,200 yards and 16 touchdowns. They would decide to make a coaching change, and his high school coach said, quote, "Ethan was a skinny kid who had a really good arm." This would be the thing that would hold Ethan back for a while, but during his junior season, he finally broke out. His coach said, quote, "He came out his junior year and had some huge moments. His coach said he was relentlessly in the weight room and finally grew up, and then things would finally take off for him." The summer before his junior season, he ended up visiting 20 summer camps to try to get attention. Eventually, the Ivy League and MAC teams started to go after him by the end of his junior campaign, but finally, he got recruiting attention once he gained weight. He also started to get buzz during his junior season playoffs, as he ended up throwing for 2,700 yards and 25 touchdowns, with 4 more on the ground. He went from a nobody to a 3-star recruit, and precisely 1 month after picking up a Penn State offer, he would decide to commit to them on May 20th. James Franklin said, quote, "We recruited Ethan because we've seen over time that he has a chance to be a really talented player nationally. He's proved that over his entire career. He chose Penn State and would say it was his dream to play on that big of a stage, and that Penn State was one of the biggest in the country." He said that Coach Yurkich came out to watch him throw, and he later got that offer, and they went to the top of his list. He had been there a couple of times and decided to pull the trigger because that's where he wanted to go. During the final phases of his recruitment, he was talking to Penn State, Cincinnati, Clemson, Michigan State, and Virginia. And what's also interesting is there was another connection here. Drew Allar and Ethan Grunkemeyer were super close friends. They trained together and even worked for the same trainer. Grunk said, quote, "I've known Drew for a while and trained with him. I felt super confident in going to Penn State." They also had another thing in common, as neither were recruited by Ohio State despite being Ohio native. Grunkemeyer's lack of recruitment didn't really bother him because at the time, Ohio State had Dylan Raiola committed, and when Raiola left for Georgia, the Buckeyes went all in on Aaron Noland. He then said, quote, "It was easy for me with the transition to Penn State, with them being rivals, because the connection really wasn't that long." What's also interesting is, as I said, he was not highly regarded when he committed to Penn State, as he was only a 3-star recruit the summer before his senior year, but then, similarly to Drew Allar, he exploded his last year and then became a 4-star recruit. A lot of this is because of his showing at the prestigious Elite 11 camp, and during the summer between his junior and senior season, he competed with guys like Julian Sayin, Dylan Raiola, and Aaron Noland, and one scout said, quote, "Grunkemeyer was the most pleasant surprise at the Elite 11 finals." This would lead him to become somewhat of a local celebrity his senior season, as a helicopter would descend onto the field with head coach James Franklin coming to see him play. His team would go from winning just 4 games to 9 games, and he credited it all to his teammates. He said, quote, "The guys around here have helped a ton and made my job easy." During his senior season, he ended up passing for 3,600 yards and 39 touchdowns, all of which were school records. Despite his recruiting pedigree, the only real blue blood offer he had was Penn State. Yes, other Big Ten teams like Minnesota, Northwestern, and Indiana offered him, but Penn State was by far his biggest offer. He said, quote, "They took a chance on me early on, and I'm hoping to make it pay off for them." He finished his high school career with a grand total of 8,401 yards and 80 career touchdowns. The guy was pretty good. According to 24/7 Sports, Grunkemeyer was the number 7 quarterback, a 4-star recruit, and the 105th best player in the class of 2024. So, how did he end up doing at Penn State so far? Well, let's take a look. Obviously, Penn State gets plenty of blue-chip quarterbacks, as they pretty much bring a guy in each and every year, but there was still a lot of buzz about Ethan when he arrived in Happy Valley. He didn't make that much noise when he got to campus, but he would end up becoming the 3rd quarterback on the depth chart after Jackson Smolik ended up getting injured. This would give Ethan an opportunity to get some more reps, and he walked into a quarterback room that was one of the more stable quarterback rooms in the nation, as they already had an established starter in Drew Allar, and then one of the best backups in the country in Beau Pribula. Beyond them, though, things were pretty unclear, and he apparently did show a ton of flash during the spring and summer, but he was just going to redshirt and not see the field. He'd end up playing pretty decently in their spring game, but nobody knew about him, and there was no reason to know about him until their college football playoff run in 2024. On one Sunday morning, he went from a nobody to a household name, as Beau Pribula decided to enter the transfer portal. This came after a long thought-out decision, and it basically made Ethan the backup quarterback for one of the most important stretches of Penn State football in recent memory. Luckily, Drew didn't get injured or anything, but Ethan would come in and mop up duty against the number 11 Ponies, and he'd end up going 1 of 2 for 9 yards with an interception. Sure, his first career pass was an interception, and that wasn't great, but it was still good for him to get on the field and to get his feet wet. He said, quote, "Something Coach Franklin has always talked about since I've gotten here is preparing like I'm a starter. So when the news broke, I felt comfortable taking that step, and that's kind of what I've been trying to do all year. The confidence that he has in all of us put confidence in me, so there were no nerves or anything like that. I felt super comfortable." Ended up taking 11 snaps against SMU, and that's all he did his first season in Happy Valley. Going into his second season, Drew could have easily gone off to the NFL, but he would decide to return. During the early mornings, both of them would watch film together, and Ethan is hoping to follow in his footsteps and to also follow his example. He said, quote, "Drew is a workaholic. That guy's in the facility more than a lot of people, other than some of the coaches maybe, but he just works hard." Going into this season, Ethan is now the true backup, as Beau Pribula ended up going off to Mizzou, where he's been really good for them, and this has led to a couple of opportunities for Ethan in 2025. Make his first play of this season against Nevada, as he would go 7 of 9 for 86 yards, and he also ran for his first career touchdown. 2 weeks later against Villanova, he ended up going 1 of 2 for a touchdown, and so far, he's appeared in just 2 games and has a grand total of 105 passing yards and 8 rushing yards and 2 total touchdowns. This past weekend, we obviously saw Penn State lose at home to Oregon, and this kind of continues a sad trend for them. Outside of 2 late drives for Penn State, Drew Allar was not very good, and he also made that late telegraphed interception, which ultimately cost them the game. It seems that besides Trace McSorley, James Franklin has not been able to find a quarterback who can make big plays and win big games. It just seems to be the case for them right now, and some are wondering if maybe Ethan will buck that trend. Sure, there's pretty much no reason why he'll see the field unless Drew gets hurt, but with him following pretty much the exact same timeline and path as Drew, will he be the same quarterback that Drew is? Someone who's really good but can't put it all together in the biggest moments? That I don't know. For now though, Penn State has a pretty good backup quarterback, and next year he's a name that you're definitely going to need to know. I honestly highly doubt that Penn State goes after a transfer in the portal, and the staff is confident about him. Coach Franklin said, quote, "There's a lot of excitement in our program about Grunkemeyer. He's kind of a nice blend of Drew Allar and Beau Pribula, and he makes some really impressive throws. Who knows how it's all going to turn out, but I hope you guys did enjoy today's video, and we spotlighted Ethan Grunkemeyer, the backup quarterback for Penn State. But what do you guys think? If you're a Penn State fan, why have the quarterbacks not been able to take that next step? What do you think of Grunkemeyer, and which backup quarterback should I spotlight next? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.